What actually happens in the brain at the moment of death? For a long time, we thought the answer was simple. The heart stops, the brain shuts down, and consciousness ends. But recent research suggests the process may be more complex than we once believed. In medicine, death is often defined by the stopping of the heart or brain, but biologically, death is not an instant event. When the heart stops, the brain does not immediately turn off. Instead, it begins a process influenced by oxygen loss, chemistry, and electrical activity. Within seconds, consciousness is lost, but the brain may still show measurable activity for a short time. When oxygen supply decreases, brain cells begin to lose their ability to function normally. Electrical activity changes rapidly. In many cases, activity becomes weaker and eventually stops. But in some recent studies, researchers have observed something unexpected. In small studies of dying patients, scientists record bursts of highly organized brain activity around the time of death. These include gamma waves, which are usually associated with attention, memory, and conscious processing. In one study, researchers observed increased brain activity just before and even after the heart stopped. In another, activity in some patients resembled patterns seen in conscious states. This suggests that the brain may briefly enter a highly active state during the dying process. Scientists are still trying to understand this phenomenon. One hypothesis is that the brain is attempting to process the situation, maintain function, or integrate information during extreme stress. Another idea is that this activity could be related to memory recall or vivid internal experiences. Some researchers suggest this may help explain reports of near-death experiences. However, it is important to emphasize these interpretations are still being studied. Another important finding is what some researchers call a wave of depolarization, sometimes referred to as a wave of death. This is a final electrical event in the brain where activity spreads and then eventually stops. It represents the point where brain cells can no longer maintain their function. This is when irreversible brain damage occurs. After this stage, electrical activity decreases significantly. Without oxygen and energy, brain cells begin to shut down permanently. At this point, the brain can no longer support consciousness, perception, or thoughts. So while there may be brief activity during the dying process, it does not continue indefinitely. These findings challenge a simple idea that the brain immediately becomes inactive at death. Instead, the process appears to include a short period of organized activity. This does not mean that life continues after death, but it shows that the transition is more complex than previously thought. The brain plays a central role in how we experience the world, and it also plays a central role in the process of dying. Understanding this process helped us better understand consciousness, stress responses, and the biology of life itself. If you're interested in learning more about how the brain influences behavior, emotions, and health, you can explore the other videos on this channel.